Welcome back to Catch It, a new perception. The reason in the past I would say to the greatest podcast you'll ever hear, or the greatest podcast in the world. I don't say that out of arrogance. I say it because I know that when it changes your life, it's the greatest experience you could have at that moment. So if you hear things that change your life, you hear things that change your perception, you take action that changes your perception, at that moment, it becomes the greatest podcast you'll ever hear. So it's not out of arrogance that I think I'm doing something special. It becomes the greatest podcast when you take the action that allows you to be able to think different so that you can feel different. Today, thinking about how, not in a morbid way, but what if we treated everyone as if this was the last time that we would ever see them? In the sense of knowing that we will honor them, we will respect them, and we will show them love in the greatest way because we may never see them again. I know that sometimes people, because of their headspace and because of their conditioning and the things that they've been taught in the world, to think, oh, I'll never see them again, it becomes a very morbid thing, like, oh, they're going to die before I ever see them, and oh, I'm so sad because I get selfish about the way that I think, and I'm going to miss them, and it's all about me, rather than saying, I want to treat them well on their way out. What if this is the last time I'll ever see my grandson? What if I create a memory for him? What if I create a memory for me? What if it's the last time I would ever be in the presence of a brother, my wife, my mother? What if I could make that a really incredible time by realizing that each and every time I see someone, it could be the last encounter I have with them? Let's make it special so I can hold on to that wonderful memory. To me, it's not necessarily a different way of thinking, because I've thought along these lines for quite some time. What if today is the last time? The last time I will be able to do something. The last time I'm able to see someone. What if today is the last time? Do I see it differently? Do I treat them differently? Is there more respect, more love? Why don't I just do that every time I see them? Every time I see you? Every encounter we have. I think that feeling connected to people, feeling connected to the Creator, feeling connected to a situation, sometimes it might be an institution like our place of employment. You know, do we feel connected to that? Do we feel connected to them? Or do we feel disconnected? And when we feel connected and we can show some respect, I believe that it puts us in a position to be able to honor them at that moment, whether it's my place of employment or whether it's an individual. And when I'm able to do that, I see the world different. I walk away feeling good. Do I walk away so they're feeling good? Am I able to offer them something by being able to treat them with dignity and respect that I didn't normally offer them prior to this? There's many different ways we can look at this, and many different approaches you can take. Think about if you were going to be with someone you love, say your parent, your mother or your father, and you're able to sit with them or both of them and just listen to them. Listen to the story they have to tell about the way that it used to be. Imagine what their world once was and how they became who they are. Honor them, love them, respect them just as they are. Now I know that often for people there's some type of maybe animosity, maybe a little bit of disdain within the family, and it's difficult to listen to them. Or possibly if they have a little bit of maturity to them than other people, they're getting to a point where it's hard to listen to them because they are what people sometimes see as going downhill. They may use a term like that if they're suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. And can we still sit with them? Allow them to tell us what they need to, how they need to. Or if they are suffering from some type of mental illness or dementia or Alzheimer's or anything like this, maybe it's time for you to ask them a different question, to sit with them differently, to ask them about their childhood. What was their greatest memory when they were 10? What was their most fun event as a 16-year-old? Would they be able to recall or share that story with you? I remember being able to sit with my grandmother. And I have one grandmother that outlived my other grandparents. And I was becoming more mature, so I sat with her in a different way. My first grandfather passed when I was but a child, and my next grandfather passed when I was a teenager. And so I didn't really have that interaction with them. As I sometimes tell the story about my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, who passed when I was young, I wish I would have been an adult and known him. So I could have inquired differently. I could have asked questions differently. I could have maybe, and it wasn't meant to be. So the last time I saw either of my grandfathers is not a memory I have. What if today I could create a memory because the last time I saw them, I was able to ask them a different question. I was able to receive love or give love in a way that I had not before. So, sitting with my grandmother, somehow we were able to just talk. And I would ask her questions sometimes about when she was younger. I would ask her questions about her siblings, or she told me about the day or the time. I don't know that it was the specific day. She shared with me a little bit about her father and when he passed. Nah, I never knew him. He passed when my grandmother was young. And so just to have those stories, to be able to share with an elder what their experience once was. Somehow, I don't know if I asked a question or if my grandmother just chose to share with me. When I believe it was her second child, now that I say that, it may have been her third. Her third child, after having two girls, I believe she had a little boy. And she was telling me about her and my grandfather being in the hospital and holding this new infant baby. And the nurse took him, and they knew that he was not well. And she said the last view she got of him when he was alive, he appeared to look up over the nurse's shoulders and met her eyes as if he was saying goodbye. I loved hearing that story from my grandmother. The passion and love that she told that story with. The intimacy that she felt at that moment, that connection to her son. It's amazing. I believe his name was Gregory. What if you could have that interaction with someone every time you were with them? And I say that because she did it with a newborn baby. She got that connection. She felt that connection. Now, I didn't discuss with her how difficult it was in watching your young newborn baby return to the spirit world before they got much of a chance to be here with us. I didn't hear the tears. I didn't see the tears. None of that. I didn't share that part with her. It was just the love, the intimacy, and the connection that she felt. I didn't hear it from my grandfather's point of view. It may have been a totally different experience for him, although when she shared the story, she shared it as if they experienced that together, that they both saw that it was a connection for the two of them with him. What a wonderful story. So it becomes generational. The last time, maybe knowing it in her heart, maybe not, but the last time that she saw her son, she had a connection to him. And because of how I sat with my grandmother, and because of how she showed up when I sat with her, I knew for years, it was maybe only 2 or 3 years, it may have been a little longer, I always treated her as if it was the last time I was going to see her. I loved being able to give her a kiss on the cheek or the forehead, tell her I loved her. I love being able to do that with my mother today. I loved being able to do that with my father before he left. My father was a little different. I was an adult, maybe even a mature adult. Some people maybe even would have referred to me as an elder by the time that my father was preparing to return to the spirit world. And when he had stage 4 cancer, he knew that he was getting ready to go. And we had that time with him. So it was very true at that moment that every time I saw him, I knew it could be the last. I remember my wife and I went down to my nephew's wedding. And it's in a different state than where we live, and we drive down. We stop by my dad's house. Something's not right. And I checked with a neighbor, and they said the ambulance came. I couldn't get a hold of my dad's wife. I knew it was my nephew's wedding, didn't really want to reach out to my sister, just went to the hospital when I heard the ambulance had come. And we were able to sit with my dad, my wife and I. And I remember smiling at my dad because he knew we came down for the wedding, and we decided we would sit with him and his wife that day. And I think to this day that my nephew understands that. And I said to my dad, I said, look, my wife bought a new dress to come see you today. And he smiles, very sincere smile. And he knew why she had bought a new dress, but it ended up she bought one to go see him. That wasn't the last day I got to sit with my father. He struggled physically for the last 6 to 9 months of his life because cancer was eating him up. And I got to take my daughters down to see him. And we sat with him one afternoon. It was different than any other day I ever sat with my father. So it's different when someone is so mature and they're an elder to many of us and they're getting ready to return to the spirit world, or someone has some type of illness that we know that they're getting ready to return to the spirit world. That's different. Those are very special moments in my life. Great memories, even with tears in my eyes. Great, wonderful memories of a connection and of love. Wonderful. I don't ever want anyone in my family, for the last time that they see me, I don't ever want them to have a disagreement with me before I leave for the spirit world. I don't want them to have any type of disdain for me. I don't want it for them if it's the last time I see them. So in this sense, I want to be able to treat everyone as if it's the last time I'll ever see them. And be able to appreciate that conversation, to be able to create a connection, to be able to share love, maybe be able to share a meal, sharing nourishment, being able to commune with people, with family, with close family, with friends. I think that those are the important moments that we take advantage of so that we feel good if we never see them again. We feel good about that last conversation. It's interesting. I know the time with my father, the last day I spent with him, because he was in the hospital and his wife called one day. She said, your dad's on his way to the hospital and he's not leaving there. So I packed a bag, grabbed my daughter and my wife, and we headed down to another state to see him. We got to spend a few days with him. Being the patriarch of our family, a fair amount of our family was there to see him off. Many tears as I sit and can feel what that felt like at that moment. And I would do nothing different than what I did. That is really cool. What about these moments with family, with friends? What about The next time that you go to church, a synagogue, a temple, a sacred ceremony, what if this is the last time you'll see any of those people? And you go out to eat with some close friends afterwards. You sit in a sacred circle with someone and then you share a meal. You maybe feast with them. Can you appreciate it? What if it's the last time they see you? Will you create a memory for them that is lasting? And to the point where it's deep enough where it's eternal? Are you willing to show up as a good relative each and every time? That's truly what this is about. I'm going to do everything in my power. I intend to go to work today, so I'm going to do everything within my power when I show up to work, that I show up as a good relative, a good representation of my family, that I represent my wife in a good way, my daughter in a good way, in the sense of people can appreciate who my wife is when they've never met her because of how I show up, because of how I speak of her, because of how she is with me when she's not with me. The same way I would speak of my daughter or my grandson. Telling a coworker I get to go see my grandson. I'm on my way to go see my grandson. I'm telling this coworker recently. Telling her what my plan is for the weekend to create some memories for his birthday. And this coworker, she's a manager of mine at the moment, and she said, I wish I had a grandpa like you. I hope my grandson can feel what she felt for that moment. I hope I can create a memory for him. I hope I can have a connection with him. That's what today is about, when we treat everyone as if this may be the last time we ever see them. Create that connection. Do it with honor, dignity, respect, and love. Because I'll tell you what, if you can feel respected leaving a situation with anyone, you will feel valued. And every bit of it will be worth it. Looking forward to next time. Live in harmony with and use the bounty of the land to bring kindness to the world. Dog Shout.